Ah, yes. Wreckreation, the latest game that Three Fields Entertainment has been developing for nearly the past 6 years. I have been waiting on this game for a while, being excited more and more as time went on. I will admit that the wait for it was pretty lengthy and that I really hated waiting for the game to be released. And to be as honest as I can say that the wait was worth it. Over time, I started to see people strongly doubting that this game will be any better than Dangerous Driving because of how poorly received that particular game was, even with the updates that it has. While some people were right that Wreckreation would be another asset flop, others actually enjoyed the game to some degree. And after I played it both PC and PS5 on the initial week it launched, I am rather satisfied with what I was getting into, aside from a couple bumps in the road. In fact, I have my archived live streams of that game going as far as I could for the initial launch week, so please be on the lookout for those videos soon. In fact, the first live stream of the game is likely already up by this point as I do this review. Now, before I get into my review, I want to get this out of the way. For those who were wondering about why we did not get Dangerous Driving 2, I want to state this because it's a fact and lots of people doubted me for saying it. There's a discussion thread somewhere on Steam for this game that outright confirms that Dangerous Driving 2 was turned into Wreckreation. Dangerous Driving 2 was just a placeholder name, we still got the game regardless, don't think that it was cancelled. That's poppycock nonsense you're thinking there. I will shut down anyone who doesn't believe that and thinks that bit of information is outdated or some crap like that. And if you still don't believe me, complain about it to me never. Go be a doomer elsewhere, this video ain't for you. Are we clear on that? Good. Now let's get straight to it. To start this off, I will say that this is Three Fields' best game by far. Yeah, I'm not joking. I've been having a blast with the game because of how much I played Burnout Paradise and have done everything in the single player just to see all the cars that it had and used my Burnout Paradise experience there. The game isn't perfect, obviously. There are some flaws with it that I'll get to later, but let me go over the good stuff this game has to offer. To start off, this game captures the feel of Burnout relatively well. If anyone had fun memories of playing the actual Burnout games back then, whichever those titles may be, this game made me feel right at home with Burnout Paradise specifically. With the way that the driving looks, the visuals at the high speeds through traffic, the takedowns, the magic is there. The game may not capture it perfectly, but there's some potential there. The dev team behind this made sure that it did capture the feel of Burnout Paradise with this game in some regard, and it's very cool that they were able to pull it off somewhat. I respect them for managing to do it. And they nailed the sense of speed for what it is. It feels so great that, honestly, I wish that Dangerous Driving felt this great. Vehicle handling is a bit on the heavy side, and I wish that it could be a tad more responsive, though they did make that fix for an update. When the game was released on the initial week, the handling was tough to get used to. It was a bit unresponsive, and you couldn't really make quick maneuvers like you could in the Burnout games. Again, they did make it a bit more responsive in a patch, so that's no longer a problem for the most part. They also fixed the performance that this game was having on PC at launch, such as the stutters, but a tip for PC players, especially on lower end hardware, is if you keep on playing the game, the stutters would eventually go away. I don't remember if that was fixed in a patch later, but so far I have rarely came across these stutters now. For anyone who is looking to get into a modern day Burnout title, this could be a good place to start. It gives you a feel of what to expect for the series, and what it does actually succeeds in the gameplay department. It's decent enough to get you into the series just starting out. It doesn't do it 100% perfectly, but the potential is there. It just needs more work in the coming patches. The game also looks great for a modern day title, and the way the lighting effects are make it look gorgeous. Three Fields did an awesome job making the game look the way it is. I will give an enormous amount of praise for that. I love how the game looks. Yeah, I know graphics aren't everything for arcade racers, but Wreckreation just makes lots of other look like chumps in comparison. Now that's not to say that it looks perfect. There are a few texture and effect glitches if you search hard enough, but even with those, it still looks really great. The visuals are pretty pleasing to look at, both the scenery, roads, weather effects, vehicles. Everything looks outstanding. The next good point about this game is the actual vehicles. There's 48 of them on launch, and 12 additional ones that were recently added. They're all divided into 5 different classes. Bruiser class cars are meant for takedowns and road rage events, and they gain an extra life to the wreck limit, which will allow them to stay alive for a little longer. Race car vehicles are the balanced class, where they are meant for race events with good speed and decent handling, but they can also perform boost chains once their boost bar is maxed out. Hyperclass cars are basically the same as race cars, just with higher speeds. The in-game announcer says that they are slower off the line, but I don't really see that. Off-road class cars can hit the dirt without losing their speed, making them great for detours, exploration, and even race events that take place on dirt roads. And finally, cop cars are benefits to already existing cars, but for the cop class specifically, they gain the ability to perform traffic checking against same-way vehicles, but they cannot check oncoming traffic. Now, how you can get cars? There's a couple ways to get them, just like Burnout Paradise. First, you have the shutdown vehicles, which are released by earning enough license points, similar to the event wins system in Burnout Paradise. And when a shutdown vehicle is released, your objective is to cruise out in the open world, find it, and take it down, and you have it. Simple as that. Then there are the cars you are rewarded for every license upgrade you earn. Yeah, this is just like Burnout Paradise's car unlock system. You can likely guess what you get for finding every single discovery item. However, unlike Paradise, you actually get 2 cars per discovery item. One for the halfway mark and one for all of them. The only exception is the roads, where you only get 1 car for driving on all of them. Each car has an upgraded version, and if you win their Reckoning events, similar to Burnout Paradise's Burning Roots, you get a better version of that car, with a special livery as one of the major changes, but also being faster than its stock version. I will say that it is kind of a bummer that none of the upgraded versions have body kits applied, and the only major visual change is a racing livery. While the body kits would have required Squire to be commissioned to modify them, at least the cop versions of the already existing cars look distinguishable from the lights, bull bars, and liveries for each county. Now, how do you get the cop cars? You have to find a police station in each county, and the cop car you find there will vary on where that station is. The vehicle customization, the only things you can change are the body colors, paint finishes for the custom colors, glass tint, wheels, rear lights, boost flames, engine sound, horn, license plate background, and license plate text. Typical assets for vehicle customization. It is a bit of a downer that there are no options to change body parts, but at least there's a bit of customization to your preference. In fact, losing the racing livery for the majority of the cars just by changing the color is also a bit of a shame. I did suggest that we could get recolorable liveries for those, and some people have requested a livery editor, so those are at least coming to the game to further expand upon that. The recolorable liveries in particular are likely to come first, but I'm not saying that it will. We could get the ability to make our own custom liveries before that, I don't know for sure. The one thing they added to the game was the cop cars in the latest content update. Simply driving around the world using these will make a vehicle spawn like a shutdown vehicle, and it's all self-explanatory from there. Each of the 4 shutdown vehicles are tied to each of the 4 cop cars. For example, you shut down the Mitani Suprema with the Hooper Protino Peacemaker, the Solomon Hirsch Hellfire for the Freiburg FMGW class, and so on. You can enter events in these cars, except their reckoning events. This is likely because the 4 cop cars have the speeds of their stock version's upgraded variants, if you catch my drift. So that I can at least understand why you aren't allowed to do those events with the cop versions of them. But this is also a good transition to the damage models as a quick thing to go over. They look fun and detailed when the cars are all smashed up, although the only knack I have is that the deformation is a little bit on the goofy side because, well, when smashed in certain places, they look like they were made out of clay, and sometimes they look like they shouldn't be operating at all. Technically, it's a video game, and I understand that, but the damage model should be a bit more on the realistic side. The wrecks when crashing are pretty good, though sometimes the wreck goes on for too long, and I want to respawn already. Just have the button prompt pop up after enough time has passed during the wreck already. I just want to get back to what I'm doing. I mean, at least the physics for the crashing are great, but for the rest of the game, that's a different story that I'll get to eventually. At least for now, the damage models we have are acceptable. The team really wanted to go the distance for the wreck part of the game. I do see what they were going for, and it really shows. I like how they look for the most part. I just wish the deformation wasn't so goofy looking sometimes, like when the hood is really stretched out and the door is attached to nothing while looking mangled. On to the creativity part of the game, since this is a sandbox-style open world game. And if I sound a little loud there at the start, I'm sorry. The amount of items you can put and the Skytrack pieces in the Live Mix editor is actually pretty abundant. You don't have them all at the start, so you'll have to find the Live Mix items around the Mix world to get all of them, which are indicated by red, blue, and gold hammer and wrench icons. Once you've collected all of those, then you're able to expand your options and create your own events for them. The Skytracks that are made by the staff, they seem like they're a glimpse of what you can expect in this game and what you can create with your own imaginations. The team really wanted to capitalize on this part of the game, and it's basically like Trackmania or Hot Wheels Unleashed, where you create and drive on crazy track layouts. I've mentioned that before in my Wreckreation 2025 trailer overview video. In order for Skytracks to work properly, you'll need to place on-ramps for the start and off-ramps for the end. You can't just place a straight and then leave it like that to get off, because that'll count as a wreck and you're forced to reset yourself back on the track piece. Originally, this felt really annoying to me, but then as I messed around with the editor more, I started to get an understanding of how it works. Now, you will need to use the Live Mix editor to get some of the Live Mix items that are all over the Mix world, which makes sense. If you were to go for the Live Mix item on top of the rocks in the northwestern corner of the map, you'd have to build a Skytrack to reach it, as you cannot get there under normal means. That, I can see why they put such items in obscure, ridiculous places. You just have to think outside the box to reach them. There's one other thing you can do, and that would be renaming your world, which is required for an achievement, renaming your vehicles, and even renaming the roads to your liking. You have that flexibility for options and name things after your pets or the actual streets you're on, or something that is very dear to you. Anything you desire. Like, call a road something like Burger Drive, Kindle Avenue, Evie Trail, anything. Having this many options to personalize your driving world. Heck, you can even personalize your items such as signs on the gates, metal wall posts, and your flags. If you want to go with a fire design on your items, you can do that. Change the color of those items, you can do that. The symbol on those flags to a diamond, you can do that. Want to change your name to something that identifies you more? Have at it. It's all about you. If I was to use my signature red and sky blue flame pattern that I loved so much, I have already done so because it's my mix world. Very nice. Now, if you ever have a need to reset everything back to normal, there are options for that too. You can choose to eliminate all your live mix items you place down, reset the name of your world, cars, roads, and personalizable items back to their default state. You can also change the weather, time of day, and the amount of traffic that can appear in your mix world, and it's very intuitive. Speaking of weather, it seems like the rain and snow affect the handling of your car. Like, if you drive in rainy conditions, your vehicle will be harder to turn with, and snow just makes it harder to remain in control because of how slippery the road has become. So, yeah, conditions like those are another factor in how your car handles. It's another layer to consider if you want to race in such conditions. Make a slippery, curvy track nightmare. Or a track with plenty of hard turns with rain coming down. Having such freedom like that with your mix world is one of the biggest highlights of this game. No doubt about that. Moving over to the discovery part of the game, there are 91 roads, 255 billboards split into 3 different types, 25 rectangulars, 100 promo stunts, and 30 ad breaks. And then there's the 322 gate smashes. Like I said earlier, by getting half of each discovery object, you'll unlock a new car for each, and then another one for getting them all, with the exception of the roads, where only driving on all of those will reward you with only a single car. Trying to get all discovery items is a big chore to do because there's so many of them in the super large mix world of yours. Now, you don't need to fill out all 91 roads, you just need to drive on them. But, if you have driven on any roads that you haven't been on while in events, chances are that you will need to drive on that road again so that it registers. That's a very annoying bug, especially when you've actually driven on all 91 roads, and then the game doesn't count the one you drove on during that event. Rectangular billboards are the least abundant of the 3 billboard types, and will take the least amount of time to smash through. What these billboards do is track the highest amount of WP, or Wreckreation points, you've accumulated when smashing through it. WP is earned by performing risks, smashing stuff, driving with your doors open, etc. If you have friends who have smashed through that rectangular billboard with higher WP, it'll show their name instead of yours, which is really neat. Promo stunt billboards require you to perform a stunt while flying through it and land it without crashing. Stunts include flat spins, whether just a simple spin or a certain amount of degree, a number of barrel rolls ranging from 1 to 3, air braking, which requires you to open your doors in the air before you hit it and close them before you land, or just simply smashing through it in the air. Double headers require you and another player online to smash through it at the same time. Yeah, it sucks that you can't get all the promo stunt billboards smashed because of those double headers, but there's only 4 of them in the mix world. You should save those for last. So getting everything offline is out of the question in that regard. I wish double headers would have been replaced with a different type of promo stunt entirely. Ad breaks are pretty much all over the mix world, and you get those by just simply hitting them in the air. That's really all you have to do. They have differing advertisements, but that's really it, though some of those ads are pretty funny, basing on acronyms of curse phrases and turning them into actual company names. Every billboard type has a corresponding color on the mixed world map. Rectangulars are yellow, promo stunts are red, and ad breaks are green. Gate smashes are all over the place, and even set in most of the smaller parking lots you can find. These usually have shortcuts past them and are colored red, like I mentioned. Sometimes they lead into closed off areas such as Crystal Bay Speedway, Yeager's Field, and even Mitchell Park Raceway, and those locations might have events to play in and some of those billboards that you can smash. It takes a while to find those last couple gates you need, but the reward just might be worth it. And one last thing for discovery is that clearing up the whole map will actually show all locations of every event, billboard, gate smash, parking lot, gas station, and even roads you may not have driven on already. So if you're starting out, wait until you get an off-road vehicle and then start to clear up the map. It'll be worth it rather than going around and searching for everything yourself. The last and biggest positive point of the game is the multiplayer. You can tell that this is exactly what they designed this game for. The online multiplayer is great for not only chilling with your friends, but also creating stuff with them too. Everyone loves multiplayer in their games, and that is the big reason why people purchase games. They don't care about the single player, they just want to play online with people. Even though I think they should play some of the single player first to understand how things work. It's just like Burnout Paradise, where you can play cat and mouse with someone by chasing them down with your McLean Aurora special and smashing them off the road that way, and keep doing that until you get bored of it or the other player exits the room. The host can create challenges like Hit the X, a cooperative challenge, or even a competitive challenge. And you can change the challenge conditions, like using a specific vehicle, for example, or hitting the X by performing a specific risk. You can also build sky tracks with your buddies, and they have an assigned color to them when placing down parts to signify who is doing the build and who is doing the decorations. Depending on how many people are working together to build your custom sky tracks for custom events, you can think of something together as a group and make something very special out of yourselves. Collaboration is a really neat thing to do, and that's awesome. Like, make a smashy obstacle course, a speedway, add some spice to the action, and play these events with your favorite car. The possibilities are endless if you can pull it off with your group. And by doing this, you are developing new ideas to try out with other people. That is the power of teamwork, making your own imaginations and ideas a reality. Be creative, that's what it's all about. As for racing without the sky tracks, it leaves a lot to be desired. Mainly because there tends to be a skill gap between casual players who just like to play the game however they want, and sweaty tryhards who cannot accept anything less than first place and play more competitively. Now, I haven't really played a racing event with anyone online, so take this with a grain of salt, but if there's no handicap for people who are left behind, then I can consider that as something that could be added. What I mean is that people who are out in front can earn boost at the usual standard pace. However, the people who are far behind should gain boost at a much quicker rate so that they have a chance if they don't have the skill to catch up. Falling way behind in the back of the pack has always been an obstacle in racing games because of the skill gap. Casual players usually are at a disadvantage against sweaty tryhards because they want to win, so with the boost handicap, it gives them a chance to catch up. But because casuals can't catch up to the tryhards, due to either not having an equally fast car, their driving skills aren't as great, they keep missing checkpoints, crash often, or even all of those things, they'll just quit out of the event because they know they've lost anyway, and why keep on racing at all if they know they've already lost at that point? Just go GG, exit race, and move on to the next. A boost handicap for those who have fallen behind in racing is all I ask. Maybe add AI too to give them a better outlook. You also have 100 TFE challenges, the freeburn challenges of this game, which are unfortunately required for 100% completion of this game, and you need a specific amount of players to complete them all. Most of them don't display the first objective in the description, and the only way to find that out is by starting the challenge itself. Look at your map, find where the location is at, cancel the challenge, fast travel to the nearest lot or gas station, then launch the challenge again. The only problem is that there's not a lot of people playing this game online, so trying to find others to do these challenges with is a pain in the neck. Unless you have friends, trying to do these with randoms coming in, they may not want to do these challenges and drive around. You're better off finding a group of people who are committed to doing those for you. You also have to keep in mind that there are challenges where more players are required to complete them, so you can't do all of them with only one other person. And the records are very fun to tackle. There are 8 different types of records you can set for most of the roads. Well, most as in the roads that take place on the street. Excuse me. You can set a time record, drift combo, longest boost, oncoming, air, near-miss chain, and WP score. On dirt roads, there is no traffic to be found, so oncoming and near-miss chain records cannot be recorded. And to set a record at all is to beat the par score that TFE has set for that road. The fun thing about this is that if you can beat your friend's record for that road, you can take that position back from them, and if you can set all records on a road, you'll pretty much have that road dominated up until a friend beats your highest score for a record on that road. And it's simply a rivalry kind of system with that, where you continue to best each other's scores for that. This can also apply for race event completion times and road rage scores as well, though only with the standard and staff-created events. The only scores they track are your own, and any friends who have set their own records instead of the entire world. It sucks a little bit that there's no way to check the worldwide rankings for each record on each road. I imagine that their servers aren't big enough to support such a thing, but you never know. And the last thing is that as of this time, there is no cross-platform multiplayer, which sucks, but hey, they're making it work, so that won't be an issue anymore. It should be added in this next content update that is coming soon, whenever that will be. We don't know when. Now, I've been pretty positive about this game because of what it brings to the table. However, as I've said earlier, it's not perfect. There are a couple of things that do hold it back quite a bit and should be improved on. Had to take a drink, sorry about that. The first big complaint I have is the design of the open world itself. It's all just grasslands and fields and coastal areas. There aren't any deserts, mountainous roads, canyons, nothing that the devs claimed that there would be back when the game was in its early stages. And you're going to be seeing the same theme all around the mix world, which makes it look a bit boring seeing the same type of landscapes everywhere you go. Yes, they did get the coastal parts of the world correct, but what about the rest of it? You said back then, when the game was still called Dangerous Driving 2, that there would be a desert area, a mountainous area, and a canyon area. I was more so thinking of those 4 biomes being divided into the 4 counties, but no, you're gonna barely see any differences with the open world as you race through the place. And yeah, I get that the mountain areas are part of the off-road sections, but we could have had an actual mountain area with snow falling at the higher elevations. We could have had an actual desert biome with bright spell weather. Could have had a canyon area with cloudy days as the weather. You know, stuff like that. How did you not go through with what you wanted in your game in the first place? There aren't even any cities that you can go through. And while I get that there are some buildings in specific areas like the gas stations, police stations, supermarkets, and some suburbs, the fact that there's no big city anywhere just makes the open world look and feel quite barren and empty to me. Now, I hear that they are going to add buildings to the live mix editor at one point so that players can make city-like locations, So that's going to remedy that issue. But even so, why only settle for a single theme of the whole open world? There's barely any sharp corners, it's all rural, so you're going to be met with nothing but light, curvy roads the whole time, especially when playing events in general. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit 2010 even got this right. At least in that game, the mixture of biomes, such as Eagle Crest, Oakmont Valley, Boulder Desert, and East Gorge Canyon, were made to work because of how diverse it was. Wreckreation doesn't do that here. The amount of variety in the biomes is lacking, and makes the mixed world look a bit uninteresting until you start placing sky tracks around the place. Then it could be somewhat interesting for you. It's your mixed world, you do whatever you want, but again, the amount of variety for the different biomes is almost non-existent. This complaint also ties into my second big complaint with this game, which is the single player itself. While the amount of events is plentiful around the world, actually playing the events is rather boring. The race events feel like you're playing the same thing over and over again, minus the class restrictions, weather, and other possible special rules for them. These events have to be done in order to earn license points for license progression. But the fact that the single player is just look for events to play in, unlock stuff, and win new cars, I suppose that is what Burnout Paradise did as well when you think about it, but even so, combine that with the fact that there aren't any city landscapes means that you get an experience that it just feels the same everywhere, no matter where you go. Another reason why the single player was pretty much a slog to get through, in fact, this part of the single player was so bad back when the game launched, was the road rage events. They made the AI incredibly difficult to take down because they didn't react to your slams in time. A few of the penalty road rages in particular were the most obnoxious because of this. How do you screw up road rage this badly? The penalty road rage on Summit Ridge in specific has 2 penalty cars that you have to avoid taking down. The fact that this is still in the game made the single player experience more unenjoyable than it already did. I don't know who in the right mind thought that this was a good idea, but there is a strategy you can apply with a new update. Stay behind the 2 penalty cars and let them drive away as new opponents spawn behind you and then go from there. That's how I was able to beat it. Fortunately, road rage is no longer frustrating since the AI now reacts to your slams accordingly and they aren't like stone slabs that you hit with your puny looking arms. Road rage is actually much more manageable now, but the penalty road rages haven't really changed much. In fact, as of now, they are considering reworking those to make them easier and more manageable based on player feedback, so that at least won't be a problem once the patch for that actually does come out. Speaking of the AI, they can make some pretty bullcrap maneuvers. The way they drive is just so janky that you sometimes see them go from one direction to the other instantaneously, like frame perfect precision. Other times they just perform full speed 90-degree grip turns on the intersections, no drifting needed. That's another big problem I have with this game, and trying to take down the shutdown vehicles feels much more challenging than it is. The crazy rubber banding with them does not help matters either. Some of the reckonings can be pretty difficult to beat, such as the Dearborn and Schaefer Model D reckoning event, where you have to be a flawless driver without crashing once. I think the Solomon Hirsch Cyclone Reckoning event is also like this, along with the one for the Marconi Mamba. But for the most part, reckoning events are relatively easy to beat except for those 3. They can be rather difficult. The off-road race events aren't actually races, it's just you versus the clock, but you are participating in the event, reminiscent of the cross-country events in Forza Horizon. The fact that there's no AI in the off-road races, which are the brown icons with a tire on the map, That also makes the off-road races boring to play because it's more of a time trial instead of a race. Granted, there are actual standard race events that do take place on dirt roads, but still, it makes the actual off-road race events more empty. And lastly, before I move on to my next big complaint with this game real quick, is the fact that you don't gain the ability to create different events and skytracks at the start of the game. Why? Why do we have to keep playing the single player just to unlock more creation options? Being restricted from doing that is a big turnoff for some people. They just want to be creative right away, and locking all these features off at the start until progress is made in the single player? That's a no. So yeah, the single player career is a little bit of a crapshoot. It's not the worst part of the game, just to be clear. However, I think that it could be better if these things were improved on. My third big complaint with this game is the drifting. Why does it work the way it does? How does a simple risk work, like, automatically? You can't even integrate the e-brake to further help your stopping power while you drift. And the way you can exit your drift feels automatic too. Like, the moment you countersteer in your drift, it stops as if you wanted to get the car back straight again. The drifting is so inconsistent that it doesn't really work. Why does it also get cancelled out if I smash through an object as my car skids across the surface? I mean, yeah, that did save me from flubbing up a couple time record runs, but it shouldn't happen still. I can't even tighten my angle while I drift. It's so bad. And sometimes the drift just stops completely, forcing me to regain my grip. And even on the sky tracks, the drifting is not good enough to make those hard 90-degree spiral parts at full speed. I think I can go through 2 at most without hitting the outer wall. Luckily, we have been slowly seeing more and more improvements to the drifting because what we have right now just doesn't work that well. And if I end up using both the e-brake and normal brakes when I want to force stop myself, the drift starts when I didn't want it to, and I end up going too far off the road or crash into a tree. You can't e-brake drift like you could in Burnout Paradise, so that makes the e-brake only useful to do turnarounds when necessary, or if you want to end your drift immediately. I don't see anyone getting used to how the drifting in this game works. It looks more natural, but that doesn't mean it'll work naturally. The turning radius in your drift seems to be constant, but we should be able to tighten or loosen our angle however we want without ending our drifting. As of now, we can't really do that, but I hope that 3 Fields can build upon this and make it feel more natural. Make the AI know how to drift, to further make their driving look natural, because I really don't like how they're made their driving so bullcrap with frame perfect reactions and full speed 90-degree grip turns at intersections. How the drifting is structured here isn't working. Please rework this because it's not exactly the best thing in the game. And the last big complaint I have is the physics. How the hell did you not polish them throughout the whole time you've been developing this game during the past 5 years? Do you not remember how to make good physics for a racing game based on your team's experiences in the 2000s as a full-on studio? You've had all the time during this game's development to polish up the physics to make them as great as you possibly can. Why didn't you do that? This baffles me on a whole new level because, well, you've had the physics down for riding against the guardrails. Why didn't you improve the collision reactions? In fact, based on my experience, the physics are worse on consoles because I remember driving the Freiburg F11 Veyr GT, and when I drifted into a guardrail at boosting speeds, my car gets catapulted to higher speeds, which did help me a bit, but that shouldn't even happen at all. I even saw other people get kicked high up in the air after hitting another car, wall, what have you, And this really gets me concerned for the player base of this game because if this happens more often, it might steer players away from it entirely because they can't stand such physics because they do remind them of TFE's previous games. One thing that does concern me is if there are faster cars that come out with glitchy hitboxes, they will give more frustration to the experience and drive more players away. And players who take the game seriously won't play it like ever again until all these physics problems go away and the drifting becomes more polished. People want a good arcade racing game, so it needs to live up to what it's aiming for. Three Fields isn't exactly a skilled studio in the physics department. That really showed when they released Dangerous Driving back in 2019. And players' reactions weren't pretty at that game's launch. It ain't nearly as egregious in Wreckreation, I won't dare say that, but seeing how it's slightly leaning in that department, I am a bit concerned about the devs not polishing them up enough before the end of support for this game. I would really hate it if that happens. As of this time, though, it's not that bad, but again, has me very concerned. Those physics, along with the very wonky drifting, are the only two biggest complaints I have with this game. So that's 2 strikes already. So far, the game has been pretty solid. I would have given it a 9.5 out of 10, but I'm sorry, the physics and drifting were so awful, I'm dropping it to a 7 out of 10. That's how bad they were. I can't really give this game a 10 out of 10 because it doesn't really have everything it needs to become one of the best modern arcade racers out there. At least, not yet. And because it's an indie title, it's not going to get as much attention. Granted, people should look more into indie titles because there are some hidden gems in that department. And no, this game ain't as horrible as Dangerous Driving. That's a fact. But the AI problems that still persist, the drifting being as badly structured as it is, the lackluster single player with the lack of variety in the open world, and once again, the physics not being polished enough, those bring the game down to a 7 out of 10. I can't go any higher than that because of those problems. It is very fun to create your own sky tracks with other people, customize your car, make events to your own liking, the online multiplayer being the game's biggest point. It's very enjoyable. Personally, I'd rather stick to Hot Wheels Unleashed because I'm not much for burnout driving with wacky track designs, but hey, you never know, ideas could spark in my head. The single player is fine, but there's really not that much to really say about it. It's boring, but hey, it's there if you want to get everything there first and then move on to the online portion of the game. Even for someone like me, I will admit that I wanted this game to be the best it can possibly be. And it kinda succeeded, though I wish that lots of those problems I've experienced were solved. I know people are going to say, this game is another asset flop, just like Dangerous Driving. I wouldn't say so 100% because while there are some things that were carried over from that game, there's a lot of new things and the game as of right now is fairly solid. Of course, that's just my opinion. I'm not one to dictate who gets to like or dislike a game. That's not the purpose of this video. We don't need any misunderstandings. However, I will say that despite the awful physics, drifting, boring single player, and near lack of variety in the open world, Three Fields Entertainment have at least put their foot in the right direction, making stuff with the community, a very large 400 plus square kilometer open world that gives you all the space you need to make your own stuff, playing at your own leisure. I'd say that this is a decent spiritual successor to the Burnout games. It does capture the feel and experience of Burnout Paradise rather well. Some people may doubt that, but you know what? Fair enough. Does it replace that game in any way? I don't think it does. The actual Burnout Paradise game is still a valid option to go back to, and I won't judge anyone for it. But personally, I've had a good time playing this game and would only play the multiplayer portion of it, which I believe is the primary point of the game. I was more worried about how this game would fall into obscurity because of it being an indie title, but with how creative you can get with props, sky tracks, and amount of content, I now kinda don't see that happening. It is one of my favorite indie games of all time, despite some of its shortcomings. Now, with all of my heart, I'm just praying that this game gets just enough support to make it one of the best indie arcade titles out there, because there are some indie games that did get a few years worth of support, Trailout being one of them. I hope Wreckreation will be one of those games as well by fixing all the bugs and glitches, improving lots of things, and make it to where we no longer have problems that were present in dangerous driving. It's fairly rough looking for now because it's still technically new, so things can still get better as time moves on, but those could just be bumps in the road. And maybe they will further fix things as they tread down this path, which is also what I am really hoping for. But as of now, the game is solid. 7 out of 10. You did great with this.